Let's face it, getting burned while out there on surveillance is about the worst thing that can happen to a private investigator. As for me, well, I have to admit it, I am not immune to this. I have been burned more times than I care to remember. The worst part of it, when I think back, all those times when I was made, well, my stomach still turns and boils inside. In almost every single instance I was burned, I can look back and I can see every single mistake I made and all of the things I could have done or should have not done that would have prevented me from getting burned in the first place. In just a moment, I will give you the best possible advice I can give to a surveillance investigator about getting burned. First, I want to go over some top things you should consider when you look at every surveillance job to help give you the best chance for success. To be sure though, none of these is a one-thing fix that fixes everything. There are tons of reasons PIs get burned, and I can guarantee you no matter how careful you are, you will undoubtedly get burned on occasion while doing surveillance. It is just the nature of the beast. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. The worst part of the entire thing for me, for every time I have ever been burned, is having to call the client and try to explain to them what went wrong, why the case is now compromised, and why I had to leave the job unfinished. As a private investigator, conducting surveillance without getting burned, made, discovered, or whatever you want to call it is crucial. Here are the top strategies I suggest you employ to help ensure a successful surveillance investigation. Maintaining appropriate distance is vital, whether you are doing stationary surveillance, mobile surveillance, and even foot surveillance. The big question, though, is what is an appropriate distance? How far back should you sit? How far back should you follow? Every case is going to be different. Don't go into each case that you get assuming you can do it the same way you did the previous case. This is one of the biggest misconceptions new PIs have. Well, it worked before. It should work again. Now, obviously, we all learn from our mistakes. OJT, on-the-job training, is the biggest learning tool we will have when we first start out. But the key to that is to make sure you learn from your mistakes and make sure you look at every case as a new adventure. If you are working stationary surveillance in a quiet residential suburb, then your stationary surveillance position may need to be further away from the subject's location. It is very likely in these types of situations that the subject will be familiar with neighbors' vehicles as well. The subject is going to most likely know many of their immediate neighbors. And if they have resided there a long time, there is a good chance they know just about everyone. So staying back as far as you can within reason makes good sense. I usually will try to set up my stationary position in the 1 to 3 block distance from the subject's house, depending on several factors. First, I look at all the routes out of the neighborhood. What is the most likely way the subject will leave when they go active? Where can I set up so I can see the residents, see the vehicles at the residence, and be able to follow them out of the neighborhood safely without them noticing me? This usually means I do not want to be at a choke point. I don't want them driving past me where they will notice my vehicle, and I definitely don't want to have to flip a U to follow them if they do drive past me. Many times I will find a location where I can observe out my back window or through a mirror if needed. This way, if they go past me, I can just casually pull in behind them at a safe distance. Now, if I am working in a busy city location, I need to be parked closer to the subject's location for various reasons. In these scenarios, it's harder to see from a distance with a lot of vehicles that are parked all around, as well with heavy traffic on the street. It is also oftentimes much harder to tell which way they will go, so the need to get a quick follow when they go active is higher. The biggest lesson I learned, though, no matter what the scenario, if you get even a little video of your subject when they leave the house, it is good news for the client, especially in those injury-related type of cases. When you're on mobile surveillance, it is important to also maintain an appropriate distance, but it is often difficult to decide what is appropriate in those situations too. If I am on the open road, an interstate for example, I may stay back a half mile or so and then pick up speed to close in a little closer as they approach a major interchange. If I am on a busy freeway system in rush hour, then I am much more likely to be right behind them, most of the time to ensure I can stay with them. If they end up on an arterial or a main road, I will stay back a little bit, but not too far, as I don't want to lose them at a stoplight if it suddenly changes to red on me. I also have to maintain awareness of what is ahead of me so I can plan appropriately as my subject enters shopping areas, school zones, or other situations that may cause them to change routes. If the subject goes into a residential area, I will usually give them quite a bit of distance. I try to just keep them in sight, sometimes even taking the next street in or pulling over and waiting a moment so they don't see me following them into the area. Regardless of the distance between you and your subject, if you cannot blend in, your surveillance will be difficult. This means you need a good vehicle that fits into any scenario well. I recommend neutral colored vehicles like crossover SUVs or what is often referred to as soccer mom vehicles. You also need to make sure the vehicle's appearance blends in too. If it is snowing outside and you park in a garage, then you go out and you park your nice clean dry vehicle on a street where every car has 4 to 6 inches of snow on it, well, you will stand out a bit. Many PIs like to wash their car before going out on surveillance. This is good, so you have clean windows to shoot video out of, right? But if you are setting up surveillance in an inner city area or an industrial area, well, this could make your vehicle stand out just as much. And when you're on mobile surveillance, you need to blend in also. This means don't be weaving in and out of traffic, always changing lanes and doing things like that. I always tell myself to just chill. Act like I'm just looking around when I'm at a stoplight, or pretend to be on the phone and not be staring straight at my subject's mirror all of the time. Changing lanes, though, is often a good strategy to use when it's safe to do so. If I'm on a 3-lane road, I may try to stay in the middle lane, but I must be ready in case my subject suddenly turns. I also will many times try to keep a car between me and my subject if I've been following them for a while. This gives me a little room to breathe, but it also means I need to stay more focused to see if they turn. If my subject goes into a shopping center or a large parking lot or fast food place, I might use a technique where I go around the block or enter at a different entrance and set up where I can see them from a distance and follow from that advantage point as well. It is also good to make sure you change your surveillance schedule when possible. Now, this has to be weighed in with your client's desires as well as any intel from past surveillances. If the subject is known to only go active in the early morning hours, well, you probably don't want to be starting surveillance at 10 in the morning. But you might change your days of surveillance. People's schedules usually change somewhat on the weekends versus the weekdays. Whenever possible, it's also best to use multiple investigators for any surveillance, preferably investigators with different cars to use so they can stay as covert as possible. But this is rarely possible due to client resources as well as the client's standard procedures, especially when it comes to working for insurance companies. I usually set out on surveillance with a few objectives in mind. First is to get the initial video of the subject. This is so vital to those insurance claim cases as it proves to the client you can get eyes on the target. This essentially equals success for any case regardless of what else happens. Well, to a point that is. My second objective is to get a good follow on the first opportunity. This is the least likely time to be made by your subject, the first time they go active on the first day of surveillance. Every subsequent day of surveillance means you are that much more likely to be noticed by the subject or the neighbors. So if you get some good video and intel on the subject on day one, it affords you some breathing room in the future. My third goal is to not get burned. Now, depending on the type of case, like for domestic related investigations, not getting burned is more times than not the primary goal, as once you are burned, the gig is usually up. But in those insurance related cases, it is not as big of a deal, but it can have some bad consequences too. From the business standpoint, if you get burned, well, the client is probably not going to likely send you back out on that case in the future. And from my experience, those type of cases can come back 2, 3, or even more times over the course of a year or 2 or more. I have had cases that I have had worked more than 10 times over a 2 to 3 year span. Having that repeat business is nice. You already know the subject's habits, their patterns, where to sit. The hard work has been done, and many PIs that have been doing surveillance for a while will attest that they probably see 50% of their cases come back. My best advice for new surveillance investigators is to keep this in mind. It is better to lose your subject and have another shot down the road rather than to get burned. If you get burned, the day is done, the time clock is punched, and you won't be going back out on that job anytime soon. If you get burned too many times, well, the client will stop using you altogether or only use you in a pinch, or for those cases they don't really care about, as they expect any PI to get burned. And if you don't get burned, even if all you get is a little initial video of the subject and you end up losing them on the follow, you can go back another day to try again. As well, the client is going to be more likely to give you the case back in the future, and you have gained some intel in most cases, like how does the subject drive? What exit did they use? What days were they active? Now, check this out right here. This PI training video right here, it was selected just for you, so check it out now.